Hi, and welcome back to Aging is Direction. I'm Cathy Clements, your longevity strategist. And today we're going to talk about something that sounds like it should just be in a physiology textbook, but maybe it's one of the most important longevity measurements you'll ever hear about. It's called VO2 Max. And it sounds a little sketchy, right? Most people that on a day-to-day basis, you're not talking about your VO2 max unless you're also working out and you're going through those workouts and figuring things out. So I'm going to get ahead of myself like I always do. So let me just back up. So now if you've never heard of a VO2 max, that term before, don't worry, most people haven't, like I just said. In fact, when I mention VO2 max in conversation, I often get a look that says, should I know what that means? And in reality, probably not. But by the end of this episode, you'll understand why longevity experts believe this single metric tells us more about future health than almost anything else. And here's what I love about this topic. It has absolutely nothing to do with how good you look in a swimsuit or if you have definition in your arms from lifting weights. It has nothing to do with fitting into a certain size of clothing. It has nothing to do with any of those things. And it has everything to do with whether you still are able to enjoy life 20 years from now. Can you travel? Can you walk through an airport? Can you climb stairs carrying luggage? Well, I don't know. Depending on the way my daughter packs her luggage, I'm not sure you would want to climb stairs carrying her luggage, but your own luggage. Can you spend the day at Disney with your grandkids and still feel like a human afterwards, or that you have energy enough to go to dinner that night? Can you hike the trails, explore the city you're in, or carry your groceries home? Recovery or recover when life demands something from you. That's what we're talking about today, because longevity isn't just living longer. It's having enough life in the years that you have ahead of you to enjoy the living that you still have to do. So let's talk about the first thing, the airport test. I want you to imagine something. So you're now, let's say you're 75. And if you're already 75, let's give yourself 10 years. Say you're 85. And you've saved up for a trip. You've planned it down to the last detail. You want a specific airline. You want to fly first class or business class. You have tours and everything already planned. Now you arrive at the airport. Now, think about everything that happens before you ever get on the airplane. First, you have to park your car, or if you're Ubering in or on some kind of shuttle, you have to get from the shuttle to inside the airport. Um, most Okay, so I'll just say most of us that are in our age bracket are still going to the ticket counter and sometimes checking a bag or checking in and getting a paper ticket. You're a little more advanced if you're not getting a paper ticket and you're using your cell phone as your boarding pass. Good on you. So you are getting from parking or wherever you're getting dropped off, and you're walking. You may be standing in lines for, let's say you are getting a boarding pass or checking that bag. So you're waiting in those lines and then you're walking some more. So I'll use Phoenix as an example. So as you come in, and let's say I go to the kiosks, I get boarding passes. Now I have to go up an escalator and I have to stand in line at either TSA pre-check or through security. Depending on the day and depending on the time, there could be quite a long line. You're lucky if you're there 5, 10 minutes, or unlucky if you're there maybe an hour. So you're standing in line, you're dragging your luggage, let's say. Maybe you checked one big bag because you're going to be gone a while, and the second bag you're carrying on. And finally, you make it through security. And now, And let's say you're going to make it an international trip, so you have customs to go through on the flip side. So just add that in as you're coming back. But you're moving through the terminal. Let's say you've had you to take your belt off and your shoes off and the whole whatnot. Now you're putting all your clothes back on, you're grabbing your bag, um, collecting the people that you're there with. And now for us, from security, you go up another set of escalators to the terminal to see which gate you're going to be at. So you might be walking quickly. I personally, we give, or I should say, my husband and I, we give ourselves a little extra time because you just don't ever know what's going to happen in security. So you want to give yourself time for that, but you move through the terminal usually at a fairly decent pace, and you want to make sure that you're at the correct gate, that they haven't at the last minute changed your gate. So you walk up, you either check a board, make sure that the terminal or the uh, gate is the same gate. And then you might walk up or you might walk down some ramps, still dragging that carry-on bag with you. Or if you're like my husband, you have a backpack and you're putting it on your back. Or maybe you have both. Maybe as women, we use a backpack as a purse. And then we have that small roller board that's our carry-on bag. Or if you're unlucky, let's say you have to climb some stairs. Let's say the escalator goes out and you're climbing stairs. And here's the question after saying all that. It sounds almost exhausting just saying it all, but does it sound exhausting to you? I don't know. When I say it out loud, it sounds exhausting. But it's it's not something that I don't think I can manage. So does it also sound manageable to you? Is it something that you're only doing because this is a once in a lifetime trip for you? Or is travel something that you enjoy doing quarterly or twice a year or whatever, however many times that you're able to do whatever travel that you're doing? So does it sound manageable? And that answer tells a lot about what your current fitness is. Not your weight, not your appearance, your fitness, the ability to produce and sustain energy, because ultimately that's truly what VO2 max measures. So, what this really means is, so I'll break it down in hopefully not too scientific of terms. So, VO2 max is simply your body's ability to use oxygen. Sounds simple, right? So that's it. The higher your ability to deliver oxygen to working muscles, in this case, your legs or your arms from carrying your bags, the greater the capacity or your capacity is for life. Think about oxygen as fuel, because that's really what it is. Oxygen enters your body through your lungs, then goes into your bloodstream, and it fuels those muscles that you're using at that moment, or it helps process the cell, it goes into your cells so that your body then is fully oxygenated. So every cell in your body needs oxygen, and your heart pumps pumps it throughout your entire body. Like I said, your lungs collect it, you breathe in. From your lungs, it goes into your bloodstream, and your bloodstream transports it throughout your body. Then your muscles use it. So simple, right? But VO2 max measures how efficiently this entire system of yours is working together. And here's why that matters. When the system works well, you recover faster. So think about that. So those of you who have followed me for a while know that I focus a lot on lifting weights and that resistance training. And in resistance training, you're using muscles to make yourself stronger, not for aesthetics, but to support your body, your skeleton, and to support your metabolism. So if you are working out, you need the oxygen for those muscles to actually do the resistance training. And then if your body is um, capable or um, what's another word? Because it's capable, but it's efficient. Let's say if your body works well or efficiently together, then your body, the next day, you might not be as sore as you could have been, or you feel like you can do, even within your workout, the next set more quickly than you did the first set of repetitions. So you have more endurance and you have more energy. These are all important. You can then, your body, if this is all working well and you're actually getting a goodly amount of oxygen in and your body uses it efficiently, you also tolerate stress better. So if this whole idea of walking through the airport sounded a little bit stressful, your body will tolerate that stress in knowing it can do the different steps to get to your destination, which is, your uh, terminal, your gate that you need to get on the airplane. And so once you're there, hopefully you then relax a little bit more before you get on the plane and then sit for hours. But with better tolerance, you also remain independent longer. And that's really, I mean, that's to me is the bottom line for all of it. If you don't have the independence and you don't have the capacity to move and you don't have the mental capacity to remember all the things that it takes to do these things, then what's the purpose of still being around? That's is that sounds cynical on my part, maybe a little, but independence is huge. Um, I remember when the first time that we told my mother-in-law that we were, and it wasn't me, but it was her own kids, but we're going to sell her car because she could no longer drive. And that's a huge one for a lot of people because if you think back at 16, that was the first sign of independence. You got to get in a car, turn the keys on, and boom, you were gone and off. God knows where. Only you did because there were no cell phones back when we were 16. And no one had any clue where you were unless you gave them a call from a payphone or the police called or you found you were at a friend's house and you were able to call from there. So independence is a big thing. And when the system doesn't work well, everything seems a lot harder. And not because you're older, because this um, measurement is not necessarily a sign of age. It's a sign, and I'll go back to what I already said. It's a sign of fitness, and it's of your physical fitness, because your engine, your heart, your lungs, your muscles, they've become less efficient. And therefore, they're not using oxygen efficiently to energize or keep your body moving in a forward direction uh, to sustain whatever activity you're doing. I don't know why that's a sad thing for me to say out loud, I suppose. But I'll just say this. Let me tell you another story. So one thing I've noticed over the years in fitness is that my clients and the people that I think of often as aging is what makes things harder. Okay, so let me say that again. Um, in fitness, it's that the people often think aging is what makes things harder. And because I just want to make that clear. Aging's not what makes it harder. Um, although it feels like it should be. It's the fact that you're deconditioning. So the more you sit, the less conditioned your hamstrings and your glutes and your back become. Therefore, if you go to do something, it's easier to hurt yourself, and therefore there's a setback. So those things aren't the same over time. And I've watched people in their 60s and you'll maybe not realize this, but they've outperformed people in their 40s. And I've had clients as old as 89 who can outperform clients I had in their 60s. And everything else being equal, you would have thought that can't be. But it is. And it's not because they're younger, obviously, because this woman was almost 20 years older, or almost 30 years older, actually. But it's because they've maintained a capacity to do the work. They've kept that engine running. They keep moving and keep going forward. And that's, to me, hugely encouraging because I look at some of my clients and I don't want to be like that person. I'm here to help that person. But at the same time, I see clients that are 20 and 30 years my senior, and I'm like, I want to be like that at that age. I want to have that capacity because capacity is always built. It's not something that you keep if you're not working on it. So, capacity, it doesn't think about age. So, other than a client, somebody else that I watched go downhill very sadly was my father-in-law. He was diagnosed, well, he was a long-term smoker, um, diagnosed with COPD, which didn't really incapacitate him for quite a long time. But then he had an ascending aortic aneurysm that had to be fixed. And so, and think of this as we age too. It seems like um, some of us believe there's a belief out there that as we age, the more surgeries we need or the more things need to be fixed. And that's not always the case either. But in this case, he needed to have this repaired. So he goes in for surgery. What they don't tell you is that general anesthesia stays in your system for quite a long time, even after the surgery's over. That's that groggy feeling, that lethargic feeling that you get um, sometimes 2 to 3 months after you've had a surgery. It has nothing to do with your recovery. It has everything to do with trying to get that stuff out of your system. Now, COP compounded it, obviously, and the longer he laid in a bed, the more his lungs were taxed with attempting to keep the fluids out of them and keep working efficiently. Um, his mobility changed as soon as he finally came out of that. He was much slower, didn't get around quite as well. He wasn't smoking anymore. Let me just refrain from saying that, but he still had the effects of COPD. So in the long term, that those complications are what killed him. But um, it's talking about capacity. It's all about being able to stay at a certain level of fitness allows you then to hopefully bounce back or recover from illnesses and injuries more quickly than if you were not healthy or did not have a better capacity or level of fitness. Hopefully that makes sense. So, capacity does not, let me just full circle this, capacity doesn't matter about your age. So, why do researchers care so much about this? So, one of the reasons longevity experts pay attention to the VO2 max is because it predicts outcomes. And I know that sounds technical, or you're like, what kind of outcome? But think of it this way. If you want to know how likely your car is to make it cross in a cross country trip, you'd probably want to know something about the engine. Like, is it well maintained? Have you changed your oil? Does it have all the fluids it needs? So VO2 max is one way of measuring your engine, one way of knowing your capacity and efficiency. So researchers repeatedly find that individuals with higher cardiorespiratory fitness tend to live longer, maintain independence longer, experience fewer chronic diseases, maintain cognitive functioning over a longer period of time, recover more quickly or better from an illness. And here's the encouraging part. If those things weren't encouraging enough, fitness is trainable. Should I say that again? Fitness is trainable. That's not a genetic lottery. It's something you can improve. Whether, and I'm going to start low, whether you're 30, because I think our younger population now does not exercise like we used to when we were younger. At 40, think of and if you're women and you've had children, you are coming back off of pregnancies and trying to get you back on your feet. At 50, when you think, well, I want to be good for retirement, I want you to be good long term. I had a client that came to me and said his main goal was to be fit for his retirement in 7 years. It's like, okay, let's go. But you can increase this and you can um, train this in your 60s, in your 70s, in your 80s. I'm going to say and beyond, but the oldest client I've had so far is 89. She turns 90 this year. And I'm so excited for her because she's got children and grandchildren. Does she have great grandchildren? I don't think she has great grandchildren yet, and she has dogs that she takes out walking every day, and she's constantly on the move. Yay, her. So let's talk about the thing that keeps us from being trainable or being fit. And one of the biggest challenges today is something I call the comfort trap. It's life has become easier, right? Most of us have more income than we did in our 20s and 30s. And that's not always a good thing to have life being easier, although I do like life easier. That doesn't mean I don't train, though. Think about how little movement matters in modern life and what little is required of us as we go through the day. Could you sit on the couch with a cup of coffee in the morning and get all your news? Yeah. Um, Unless you have animals that need you to walk them around. The first time you'll think about getting off the couch probably is to go to the bathroom or get your breakfast. So you could have been sitting on the couch for 2 hours, depending on how early you get up. Again, not always a good thing. We work sitting. I'm sitting right now. Terrible that I admit that, but the truth is, it's just easier to record this when I'm sitting. We drive sitting. I had a client just come back from an 8 hour trip. It was a family trip and it was 8 hours each way. My recommendation was stop, 2 and 3 hours in, stretch, walk around your car. You feel goofy, but even the stretches help. Sometimes you feel goofy if I say, well, do jumping jacks. Some of the women don't want to do that. That starts a whole nother issue, but do stretching of all kinds because your body gets cramped into that seated position and again, deconditioned. We watch television in a seated position. Unless you're an avid sports fanatic, you're sitting watching whatever game is on, football or baseball or basketball or pick whatever sport is on at the time. You're usually sitting, unless you're jumping up and in elation for how well they're doing, or you're frustrated and you're pacing in front of the television. I have a husband like that. Regardless, for the most part, we're sitting. A lot of people order their groceries. They don't even go to the grocery store anymore. So they're delivered to their front door. So that they don't even have to walk through a grocery store. We use escalators instead of stairs, or we use elevators instead of stairs. We can go through an entire day without asking so much from our bodies unless we're spending specific time actually in an organized fitness routine. And then somehow we're surprised that our bodies stop being capable. The body adapts to the demands that you give it. There was a movie, and I can't think of the name of it, but you probably know it once you hear it. Is I think we over pollutioned or over something the world, and everybody was sent into outer space. And it's a cartoon. And if you know the name of it, drop it in the comments below. But everybody was on like what do you call it? Lawn chairs that laid back. So they slept in them, they ate in them, and they communed in them. And so they never got out of them. So they didn't know how to walk. When all of a sudden they've got to learn how to re-walk and do all the things again. And they were just kind of like little blobs in these chairs. I wish I could remember the name, but think about that. So your body adapts to the demands that you put on it. That's a simple one, right? And it also adapts to the absence of those demands. So if you're not doing anything, then it becomes mushy. And if you give it some demands, it stays pretty fit. If we stop challenging our bodies, our bodies assume that we no longer need that capacity. But we do, we all do. And so even though I talk about, you know, the physical fitness of resistance training with weights, I'll tell you the other part of those days, most of us only need to get out and lift weights 2, 3 times a week. And then the other days don't mean you just sit there. It should mean you're out walking or taxing your cardiovascular system a little. And I don't mean that every single day it has to be super intense, but I'm saying go walk through your neighborhood, see if there's any rolling hills that challenge you, or do that airport test again and see how challenging it is to travel. I love traveling, and I don't ever want travel um, to be a burden. I want to be able to walk through the airport. I want to get to my plane. I want to get on my plane, and I want to go see whatever it is I want to see. And the harder part is doing the tours. Let's say, so I had a client that was headed to Europe for the first time. She was going to Britain. She had had a knee replacement, and we were working on getting her back into a fitness regime that she could walk through these tours. European tours, they'll tell you up front, cobblestone streets. So it's uneven surfaces. They don't have elevators in their historic buildings, nor do they have the ADA requirements that we do in the United States to provide an elevator or an escalator. Now, there are some that have been retrofitted, but not many. And so if you want to see some of these old sites, you have to be able to walk the stairs. You have to be able to walk the distance of the tour. And so that's near and dear to my heart is travel. And those are things that I want to always be able to do. I want you to do them too, if that's something that you want to do. If it's not for you, that's okay. I'm certain that there's something else in life that and that is out there that you need to maintain your capacity for, whether it's visiting family, playing with grandkids, gardening. All those things require a level of fitness, cardiovascular fitness and muscular fitness to get up and down and do those things. So I'm getting off my high horse because now I want to tell you that we've already said you can build them. It's trainable, right? And it doesn't matter your age. That chronological age doesn't matter. It will matter in the terms of how deconditioned you are and how long it takes you to get to a specific level of fitness. That's it. So how do we build back that capacity again? Now, we've already said that's the good news, right? We can do it. It's trainable. Improving our VO2 max doesn't require suffering. You don't have to become a marathon runner by any means. You don't have to join a triathlon, although I think other than getting run over in triathlons by the younger guys way back in the day when they would release them after the women's group, I mean, I think triathlons are there's a lot of enjoyment to be had. You swim, you run, and you cycle, and not in that order, but great work. That's a great workout. You simply have to find what you enjoy and challenge your cardiovascular system consistency. So, whether that means walking hills, or if your neighborhood is flat, walking a little faster, cycling. And if you don't trust your balance off the beginning, my husband said he doesn't want to be seen with me, but I love these adult tricycles. And I think that they're great for those of us that don't think that we have the balance anymore to stay on two wheels and be able to navigate, whether it's trails or sidewalks or roads, whatever that is. So consider something like that. There are master swimming groups. If you like to swim and get in a pool with others that are of a similar age and get your fitness back. I swam when I lifeguarded. I was in great swimming shape. If I were to get in a pool today, it would take me, I'd say, a good week to get in and feel comfortable. And I know all the strokes. I know I can do it. It's not feeling out of breath as I'm swimming. But above water, rowing, whether you're on the water or you have a rowing machine, it's another great one. It works your legs, it works your upper body, and it works your cardiovascular system. One that we're going to talk about again in a later video with another expert is dancing and why dancing is so much fun and such a good workout for a lot of us. Vigorous gardening can contribute. Do you have a vegetable garden? Do you want a vegetable garden? How big a garden? All those things kind of come into play. What do you want to grow? I watched a YouTube channel of my husband started watching the Spicy Nona and love her food, but her husband made homemade wine again. And we made wine a long time ago when we lived in Italy. And it's something that we want to do again. And to see him do it, and he looks to be, and I don't want to gauge his age, but I know he's at least in his 70s, if not his early 80s. So making wine and all the things that go into that, hugely fun. So I would consider that vigorous gardening. But the goal isn't to punish yourself. The goal isn't to punish your body. The goal is to change or adapt your body to have the capacity to do the things that you find fun again. So I'm going to give you a small coaching moment. One of the mistakes that people make is waiting until they feel motivated. I'll pause there because motivation, it's fleeting. And there are days I can tell you I don't feel motivated. Motivation follows the actions that you start. Motivation comes from already seeing the results. Doesn't mean that you were motivated every single time you went out and did the weight training or the walking or the whatever it is you're doing. Just realize motivation is not always the first thing that comes. Doing the actions, following those actions, it will come, but not right away. So, in another way around it, start where you are. So, I'm at a different place than some other people my age. I'm a little bit above, but I'm also behind some women that are my age. We hike with a couple that are in their 70s, and they're very capable and very cardiovascularly fit. So it's fun to hike with them. It doesn't matter that they're 10 to 15 years older. That's a lot of fun. And we take the dogs, of course, so that makes it even more fun. So start where you are. Um, if 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes every other day is where you can do it, then start there. So if walking around the block feels challenging, start there. For some people that are recovering from a surgery, maybe it's depending on how long your driveway is, maybe it's just walking to your mailbox and back. Um, or yeah, I'd say start there. Walking around a cul-de-sac. Start close to home so that if you need help, there's someone to help you. Or if you're incapacitated because of an injury, make sure someone knows where you're going before you just head out the front door, and that they know to be looking out for you. The body doesn't care where you begin, but it responds to the consistency of the movements, of the actions, right? So this is something for your future self. I want and if you're comfortable, just close your eyes and picture yourselves 10 years from now. Not the version of you that's older, but the version of you that's wiser, the version of you that has the capacity, that fitness capacity. What does that person need you to do today? Is it more restriction? Probably not. More punishment? Definitely not. More capacity? Absolutely. Because the future wants you to have options, or your future self wants you to have options. Your future wants you to have freedom. It wants you to have strength, and it wants you to have endurance. And every walk you take today is a deposit into the future account for yourself. So I hope this helps you consider where you're at and make a decision. Are you going to stay where you're at, or are you going to adapt and be trainable and get and build greater capacity? Now, the other thing I was going to do in conjunction with this, there's a way to measure your VO2 max, and it's a test that you have to do in an office. Well, I found someone here locally that will do it. And as soon as I can get an appointment, I'm going to then ask if I can record it so you can see me go through my VO2 max testing and see how I come out. It's not to show you my capacity, but show you what it entails. Sometimes it's stressful not knowing the unknown, but you don't have to test those things. If you know right away that you're deconditioned and you don't have the capacity, then that's okay. Just get out and start moving. Get out and start walking your neighborhood or down to your mailbox, or here in Prescott, Arizona, we have 57-ish, I think there's even more than that, trails. Some hard, some easy, some moderate. Any day of the week, you can get out and get on a trail. So if you're here locally, always get out. So find those trails wherever you live and just get out, or just get out on a sidewalk and just start moving. All right. So before we completely close up for today, here's what I'd like you to think about. What activities do you still want to be able to do 20 years from now? So 20 years from now, is it traveling? Is it hiking? Playing with grandchildren or great grandchildren? Are you still working? I mean, I, I give it to people that still want to go to another job and work. Or is it volunteering? sometimes I gotta say, volunteer jobs or positions, um, they're a lot more demanding sometimes than actually a working job. Do you want to live independently? Now ask yourself this: am I training for that future? Am I training to be able to be independent or play with my grandchildren or go on those hikes in 20 years that I think I want to do, or continue to travel and try three things, three intentional cardio sessions this week? Now, I'm not saying you need to go out and be the hero and start running. No, just intentional. Um, Walking to your mailbox, all the things we've already mentioned, walking around your block, walking through your neighborhood. And what I'd love for you to carry forward is your heart wants a job. Your heart is what you're conditioning. Your lungs want a job. Your lungs feed your heart. Remember? Your body was designed for movement. And every time you challenge it appropriately, you're reminded it's what it's capable of doing. That's not exercise, that's investing in your future. So, next week, we are going to simplify one of the most confusing topics in health, and that is, how do we prevent falls? Balance, stability, and the prevention of falls, hopefully before they happen. And I promise we're going to make it easy. And I can't wait to see you then.